Hello and welcome back to Sky and Thread. I am Kelly. Today we're going to do a combination of two tags. Funny story is I tried to do this first tag, the 7 decks for deadly sins before. I ended up hating my video for it, so I never uploaded it. And I just said, okay, whatever, we're going to let this one pass. And then I saw, is it Antonia's Bliss mirror tag. And then I really wanted to do her tag. But then I was like, well, you didn't do the first one. So I've decided I'm going to try this as both tags in one video. So it might be kind of long, but I really want to do it. I still really love Sylvan's Deadly Sins first tag for the 7 Deadly Sins. So I'm going to try them both and hopefully this one works out. They're just both such cool tags and I just really like them. I also really love that I think Sylvan's tag fits me for tarot quite well. And then Antonia's tag fits me for oracle quite well. So it's almost like I get to show off some tarot, I get to show off some oracle, picks in each side of this. Although Antonia's does have tarot too, but it definitely suited me to add a few oracle decks in there. So you'll see what I'm talking about when we get there. I don't need to get ahead of myself so much. But yeah, so we're going to try it again. So I'm really excited. So like I said, I'll leave the links for both of the original videos. The first tag, 7 Decks for Deadly Sins, is by Sylvan's Deadly Sins. Their channel is really, really good. I really enjoy their channel. Just brutal honesty, and I appreciate that. Anyway, let's do the tag. Let's do it. So the first prompt for the 7 Deadly Sins is Pride, and this is a deck you use for flexing. Now, I don't really collect expensive decks. I think the most expensive deck I have, I bought for about $100. But sometimes you buy decks and then they go out of print. This was a deck I never thought I would have because it was kind of hard to get. And it's the Majestic Earth Tarot, designed and written by J.D. Hildegard Hinkle. And it's just what's it called? An art curation deck. There's a lot of those. There's like the Renaissance Tarot. There's, what is the Keystone or Touchstone Tarot, I think. If I've got the title wrong, I'll make sure I put it in the video so you can see. There's a lot of stuff like this, but I really liked this one for multiple reasons. Now, like I said, I didn't pay full price for this. I got this in a seconds sale, and I think because some of the gilding is a little like on the edges, like raises up a little bit. It's not flat, so it can have like a little bit of sharp corner just on this one corner. It's hard to see. I don't even know if you can see it on the camera, but you can feel it when you touch it. Because otherwise I was like, there's nothing wrong with these cards. They're like in perfect shape. So I feel like I got quite a deal. And I know they're out of print now, so I guess it's a bit of a flex whenever you have out of print decks. But I really do love this deck. I love it for path working. I never really was a path working type of person. And then I got this deck and I was like, well, this one's just asking for it. This one is just asking for that. I will say, I almost did what is it? Is it Katie Flowers did the tarot what's the name of it? I forgot her tag, but it's like Unfiltered Tarot Opinions or Unapologetic Tarot Opinions. And that's the only thing I hate about this deck, or hate is a strong word, that I dislike about this deck, is a lot of stuff is renamed. Like the Spirit of Clouds. If you don't go to the book, you honestly don't know what this is referencing, which court card this is referencing, right? So it's a little hard. So I think we have Steward, Rider, Spirit, and Creature. I'm almost positive that's how the courts work. So I believe this is our Queen of Swords. But you can see how that's kind of very... When the cards are already so far removed from like the Rider-Waite system, which this follows, to change the name to makes it a little difficult. I think some of the major arcana also do that, where I think like the star card is called Aurora. There's a few that do that. And then of course they use the more elemental names for the suits, which that I don't mind so much. trees and water and stone. And, you know, that's okay. Yeah, see, like, here's Aurora for the star card. So if you don't know what an Aurora is, you know, Aurora Borealis and stuff, it can be a little confusing. And even sometimes in a reading, that just throws me off. And it takes me that extra second to, like, make that connection. So, again, I don't know how much I use this for client work. I have tried when I think it would suit kind of the person. But it does take me just a little bit longer. I have to go a little bit slower with these. I think it's saving grace is even if you don't get the title, it has some keywords that you can just kind of use instead to like, okay, I'm kind of lost here. I'm just going to use the keyword. And it almost works like an oracle in that way. So it has pros and cons. A lot of pros and a lot of cons for this deck. But I kind of also like a challenge sometimes. And this one is worth the challenge in my opinion. So yeah, this is my pride deck. You know, this one really I enjoy. So highly recommend if they ever reprint. I feel like they will at some point. So having this is only a temporary flex anyway. I'm pretty sure. I'll keep your eyes out on it. All right, so the next prompt they gave was Greed, a deck you don't share with anyone or use only for yourself. That would be my nameless one. This deck is kind of impossible for me to use in a traditional spread, so I don't use it. Plus, it has a whole like oracle set that comes with it. It's big, it's chunky. The book has a lot of information. I did order the grimoire that comes with this deck. I mean, even the book, the book that comes with it is massive and wonderful and full color. And I mean, Shia Hunt, the creator of this one, really went over and above in every way. But if you're using it for, I think, more than single card or 3 card pulls, it starts to get really unruly and it's hard to shuffle even with my large lady hands. This is like kind of the oracle set that comes with it. I'll flip through some of those in a second. But I did separate them out because I did my New Year's draws with this deck. If anybody wants to see that video, I'll be sure to link it. It's just kind of me waking up on New Year's morning and doing my draws for the year. Actually, I think these are the top cards. Let me make sure I keep some of those out of it. I think they're in order right there, and I don't want to mess that up. But I'll go through some of these. So yeah, this is the nameless one. It doesn't have titles, but if you read the element suit and the, I'm sorry, this one is upside down. You can usually tell once you start looking at the background art, which way that sigil goes. It's a unique sigil for every card. So if you're doing sigil work, magic work, things like that, you know, this is our Ace of Earth. Yeah, this is our, have to count the dots, 9 of Swords. And then it has these kind of page cards. I believe these kind of like masked wild cards are the pages. They do have like a whole masked, like masquerade feeling of the courts, which is nice. And here's our 4 of Swords. So even if you don't kind of recognize the air sigil, you can kind of see that sword in the background, the gravestone. If you're familiar, it follows RWS. I think the artwork is really subtle. She does try to make the forefront that sigil. Let's see if we can find the majors. The majors, it to me is harder to read. So we have our 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So our 7 of Wands. Yes. So we have like the battlement up high. For some reason, I really wanted to read that as a 6. But again, I don't use this deck for anyone else. I'm still learning these cards. I'm still taking it slowly with them. Yeah, that's why this is my Greed deck, because I am not sharing it with anyone. And here's our 4 of Wands. So yeah, so this one also works a lot with elemental energy. I think I've been finding a lot of the decks I've been buying lately have been either astrological or elemental in a lot of ways. It's just kind of what I've been drawn to. But I do love the really like kind of subtle shadowy artwork. Some cards it really comes, it pops more, and some cards it doesn't, you know. But yeah, it's It's very large, you know, the cards are as large as my whole hand. So shuffling it is a pain, but it, you know, it comes pre-edged and everything. I mean, they really are beautiful cards. The cardstock's really nice. Okay, oh yeah, here, let me show you some of the, what is this turned over? Oh, okay, these are the ones I wanted to keep separate. These are okay. Let's see. Let's see if I can find you some of, I think, the major arcana cards. I believe this is the world card. I'm almost positive. Like, I'd have to look it up in the book. Okay, well, there's no rule saying I can't do that right now. Let's see. Kind of, luckily it's easy to flip through and look at the artwork to find the card. Yeah, exactly. So this is the world card. Hey, I learned it. So the sigils don't quite give you the astrological association, I believe, or I should say, I think in the majors you have more of like a planetary and an elemental association. So that's not as okay, is this, see, sometimes it's the oracle and sometimes I get confused whether it's a major. Oh, there it was. This is the Lovers. Okay. Yeah. I'm still doing a lot of work with this deck. A lot of time. It's going to be, I'm spending time right now working through my Wayward Dark Tarot because I'm doing my astrological decans studies. I've been journaling about the decans. So I'm working on that, and then I'll probably be working with this deck a little deeper this year. That's definitely on the list of things to really get down this year, is feel more comfortable with this deck. But I do love it. I am really happy I got it. I was scared when I ordered it that it was going to be really, really overwhelming and it might put me off. But actually it's not. It does make sense, but you do have to read that guidebook. So I'm really glad she took her time and put a lot into the guidebook. I haven't shown you the massive grimoire version of the guidebook because I don't think I have enough space to show it to you. So I'm just gonna put this back. So yeah. I could do a flip through of this if people were interested. You'll definitely have to let me know, but there are flip throughs online for this. Plenty. Okay, so the third part is, or sorry, the third prompt is Wrath, a deck you're angry at. This deck, I read reversals, right? I like using reversals. I think my problem is I have a slight system, a fast and loose system with reversals. And I thought this was going to make my life easier. It did not. I was wrong. This is Tarot Oppositions by Pierluca Zizi and Michelle D'Aloisio. I hope I said your name right. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced names. I try, but I'm terrible. I'm terrible with names outside of my small bubble. So deepest apologies, but hopefully it wasn't too far off. Anyway, so they have beautiful backs. I mean, these cards are beautiful. I really, really like the way they looked. I love the idea, but as you'll see, it's like they only give kind of like a positive upright and a shadowy reversal. And I don't read reversals only in a shadowy nature. Sometimes I read reversals as a negative aspect, lifting or lessening. Sometimes it is getting worse, and sometimes it's lessening. So these cards leave no room for that. You know, you only have your positive, happy, sun-shining version, and then your kind of shadowy, evil, desolate version of the card. And it's just like, do you use this power for good or evil? You know, and that's not how I read tarot. It's just not. I'm really trying to give this deck more time to sit with me before I write it off, because I just think it's really cool. The art style is like right up my alley. I just don't always read reversals in a negative way. To me, they're more or less, or in a blocking way. You know, it just really depends on the card. And sometimes just like the Desolate Dark version doesn't actually give me anything. Like, you know, we understand a page as someone who's taking the, you know, the aspect of their suit and beginning their journey with it, learning about it, right? So it has this optimistic look, but, you know, it's like, if you're not learning from it, why are you not learning from it? Are you overwhelmed? Are you, you know, this is almost just like, he's going to use his power for evil and not for good. And I don't even read the upright as good or evil. It's neutral. It depends on the context of the spread. Is that just me? You know, how do you guys, how does reversal readers, how does this deck work for you? Does it help? Also, if you are not into reversals, if you started reversals with this deck, has it worked well for you? Because it's a whole thing. Like, it throws me off in a reading. I cannot get the hang of it with this deck, and I want to. Again, I love a challenge. I don't want to be defeated by a deck. But this one might just be one that does, because I don't know. Like, I like the idea. I love the artwork style, but this, I don't know. I want it to work. I want it to work so bad. I'm not giving up on it yet, but again, I'm mad at this one. I struggle so much. All right, we can move on, but I'm just curious what you guys think. I'm like, because even the book doesn't help me. So, like, I understand what the book is trying to get at because I already have an understanding of tarot. But if I was brand new and this was like it, and I'm like, oh, cool, and it even has my reversals for me, and then the book kind of gives you nothing. How do you make context in a, I mean, I guess me too, I don't really use traditional spreads, and that might be a part of it too. Like, I use a whole reading it for context for each card. Like, what cards come out with it provides the context for me. I don't set it in a position that gives me context. And maybe that might be the issue for me. Maybe that's what I need to try to do, is try these cards in a definitive spread where each one has like its own title or question, instead of trying to put them in a big spread the way I usually do. We're going to give it one last chance with that, because that sounds like maybe that's what they're going for. I don't know, but I definitely don't. Me and this deck are not seeing eye to eye. Oops. I don't want to put it back. Me and this deck are not seeing eye to eye, and that frustrates me. Okay, so the next one is Envy. A deck you wanted because other people have it. That is the Crow Tarot. That is the Crow Tarot for me. I do like crows. I do like kind of goth or gothic aesthetic. I do think the artwork in this is really pretty. It's a mainstream deck. It's really easy to get. So basically all my tarot reading and mystic friends have this deck. And while I do like it, it was almost like I never quite got pushed over the edge to be like in love with this deck. I want to be in love with it. I do think it's a workhorse deck. I do think it's really good. And I think people, like I said, it's really popular. People like it. So it's fun to use, I think, in client readings. And I do have some decks like that where it's just like, yeah, this is nice. It's not really 100% for me, but clients like it. And all my friends had it. So I was like, you know, you have FOMO. You're like, am I not understanding something? Am I missing out? Because everyone loves this deck. At least all my tribe love this deck. And again, it's a very easy reader. I do think there's an aspect of like sometimes the softness in the background, maybe it's a little distracting from my eyes, because it kind of, makes me feel like I'm looking for something back here, but there is nothing. Because it's like the texture, whatever effect they use when they paint or when they create these. I always thought they were like digitally created, but I'm not sure. Oh, the creator is MG Cullinane. MJ, not MG. MJ Cullinane. And they have a whole bunch of other decks now. They have, I think, Dog and Cat, and I think they have Guardian of the Night, which is a bunch of animals. That's kind of the one I'm really drawn to, but I haven't bought it yet because I haven't clicked with this one. I haven't clicked with this one that well. I mean, as just far as like falling in love with it. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel. And it's nice, and it's a pretty straightforward reader, but you know, you can tell things have been reused and recolored and, you know, different effects and stuff. So I think sometimes like that is just, I don't know. It's almost there. It's almost there for me. It's almost the deck I want it to be. But also I think the art style just doesn't speak to me as much as I wish it did. I don't know. I'm just kind of meh with this deck. But so I got it again because all my friends have it, and I thought maybe they were seeing something that I wasn't seeing. And maybe it's just that. Maybe over time it will click more with me, but for now it's just, it's a nice deck to use for clients because they're usually pretty familiar with it. And it's not offensive, you know, it's just crows instead of people, so I don't have to worry about nudity or things like that. But yeah, so I don't know. I want to love it more than I do, I guess. Now we have Lust, a deck you like for aesthetic reasons. And doesn't, wow, this deck. I don't even touch this box and it's just coming apart. I don't even keep my deck in the box because this box, when I got it, was very disappointing. But it also kept the deck very affordable. And the cards themselves are really nice, so I'm not too upset at the end of the day. I just don't fiddle with the box. The book it comes with is really nice. The artwork is, you know, full color in here, which helps. And I also bought a book of all the stories collected that these cards are influenced or inspired by. So this is Tarot of the Divine by Yoshi Yoshitani. They are an artist I've followed since they first started working on this deck, and we're taking requests to see if there would be any interest in it at all. So yeah, I got this deck because I followed this artist for their artwork, for their art style. Backs are really pretty. They do a very graphic digital style. But I just really enjoy that kind of like lineless artwork. Kind of feels a bit like paper cutout style, but digital, which I like that too. I have the Urban Tarot, which is kind of like a paper cutout style. But yeah, and it's very inclusive. I would say the only thing this is missing is maybe more body types. But it does have a nice range of ages and, you know, cultures that all these stories come from. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's a nice linen cardstock. I haven't edged it yet because I haven't found the right color, but now I'm kind of worried because I can see where the edges. I guess I'm really hard on my decks because all my decks, the edges are getting pretty chewed up. And again, I use my decks a lot. Again, I do, they get used. So it's a hazard of the occupation, I guess. I wish some of my decks I could keep a little bit better, condition. But yeah, so I really do love this deck for the artwork. There's a lot of like fairy tale decks out there, and this is the only one I really have. Maybe besides Shadowscapes, if that counts as stories. I'm not even sure really on that one. I feel like that one's just fairy. But yeah, I don't do too much of that kind of collection. I think I do have, there was a Kickstarter for, what's it, the Literary Tarot, I believe. That one I'll have, and that'll be my only other deck that's kind of like this, based on a bunch of stories. And I think I have the Raven's Prophecy, which is based on some books, but And the rest, I do have some fandom stuff that's like TV show, like Game of Thrones. Well, obviously it's based on books too, but the deck is definitely based on the TV show. So there's some of that, but not like folk tales like this. But I know there are other folktale oriented decks out there. But like I said, this one was strictly for aesthetic reasons. This one was because I love Yoshi Tani's artwork. So I followed the creation of this deck from the very beginning and begged and pleaded and begged for it to come out. And I would have paid a lot more, but I was happy that the pre-order on this when it came out was like 15 bucks or something. So I got it pretty cheap. Yeah. Aesthetically, I just think it's absolutely beautiful. Again, I love strong colors, and I love that the color palette they went through here is bright, but is not like garishly bright. I don't know how to explain it. Like it's a nice blend of kind of slightly muted colors, but still nice and saturated. How would they be saturated and muted at the same time? I don't know. It's the color choice. I don't know. You get what I'm saying there, right? Like it makes sense how it's like slightly muted color, but they still feel very bright in their own way. How do I explain it? I don't know. They're still colorful, okay? It's a limited palette, but it still feels vibrant. English. I don't know. Words, I don't know how those work. But yeah, so Tarot of Divine, Yoshi Tani, absolutely gorgeous. It's like the second love of my life after the Shadowscapes, maybe. I don't know. But definitely a workhorse deck too. Highly recommend. Great book. Also the creators all over social media. Very accessible if you have questions or anything. And they have a good guidebook. They have, like I said, the bigger guidebook if you're into the stories. And just in general, they do a lot of tarot content now. They draw cards, I think, daily on their TikTok. It's not daily, it's weekly or something like that. But yeah, and Yoshi Tani is just a delight. So I highly recommend you go follow them. You will not be disappointed. So, all right. So the next prompt is Gluttony. A deck you didn't need but purchased anyway. And that's the Bubbleberry Hollows. I do like cute artwork, but I don't really use it for my tarot practice very much. I can't think of another deck like this remotely in my collection. But my best friend owns this deck. And through them, I found this creator. They make really cute like pins and plushes and stuff. And I really enjoy following them on social media. The Faith Varvara, I think is their name. And yeah, their Instagram and stuff is super cute. They do these little like tours of food around the world. They draw them in this cute art style. I think Lisa Papez supported this and got like the plush and stuff too. If you follow her. But yeah, so this deck is not my aesthetic, but I did find myself really endeared to this creator. And at one point, during the Panini, they got, smacked with some really bad like shipping taxes for I think one of their plushes that was about to come out, and they're like, yeah, I gotta make like some crazy amount of money in like a week to get this merchandise so I can give it to the people that have pre-ordered it. So to help out, they're like, oh, I'm gonna do a sale. Let me go ahead and start showing you some of these cards. And they said, I'm gonna do a sale starting tomorrow to help me get this money. And of course I bought these before the sale started because I'm like, if you need money, let me like give you the full amount that I can give you. But yeah, I bought these basically to help them continue their business because I do like them, I like their business. My friends are really into their stuff. It's just super cute. And again, I didn't have anything like this in my collection, so maybe I needed to fill that hole. I don't do a lot of inner child work or anything like that. So having this deck makes me feel like I should, like I don't have to live in the dark side, the shadow side all the time. And it's just so cute. And it's just like a little pip deck. It's not overly intricate in the minors. But again, it's nice and colorful and fun. And I do really love this artwork in spite of myself. in spite of my dark, edgy exterior. I do really love it, and it's a good reader. I've read with it multiple times, and it works quite well actually. So trying not to beat this one up too bad. The cardstock is really nice too. They did a really good job with this. So they're still out there. They're still selling this deck. It's readily available. All the decks I will have links to in the description. Oops. But yeah, so they got their shipment in and everybody got their stuff. Hooray! And yeah, but tell me, like, it's like the cutest death card I've ever seen. So yeah, I try not to just get sucked in impulse buying decks, especially not these days, but you know, someone was in trouble and I still got a cute tarot deck out of the deal, so it didn't feel like it was, it didn't feel like a bad deal on my end. But yeah, that's the Bumbleberry Hollows tarot deck. Okay, and then I think this is the last of the deadly sins. And it's Sloth. It says, a deck you use when you feel lazy. And that's the Crystal Power Tarot for me. I don't see a lot of people talking about this. And like, I don't really care for the style of box they use. It seems a little wasteful. I think I have my book on the shelf for this one. Let me see. Yeah, there we go. So I get it. They wanted to fit this book, but I think they could have made this book much smaller to fit a smaller box that fit this deck. But yeah, so you can kind of get a little bit. Since it's by Jane Wallace and illustrated by Roberta Orpwood. And I use this deck when I'm lazy because it has like key phrases on it like an oracle would. And it has a lot of crystal, direct crystal associations. So if you like crystals, this is a great tarot deck. Most of the time I have like crystal related oracle decks, but not too many crystal related actual tarot decks. It's a pip deck, obviously. Also, pip decks just make me lean on like my rote knowledge. Obviously, the spread will give you intuitive hits, but when I'm just thinking of card meanings, I don't have to worry about digging too deep in the artwork. Can just rely on my general knowledge and the crystal powers in here. Again, it has these little phrases. You know, they're kind of more affirmational. You know, your Page of Pentacles, Pyrite is the crystal, and it says, I'm open to opportunities for personal growth. So this is really good. If you're pulling like a card today for yourself and you want to know what crystals you should work with, that's really good. They will like pick one crystal for the whole suit and then change it in the majors and the quartz. You know, like they will all have their own, and the majors have their own. But then if you go to the cups, they're all like aquamarine. If you go to the wands, they're all garnet here. But it's just a very easy read. It's again, I love really colorful decks. So for me, I was very into this. I love crystals, as you can tell. And I just think the artwork's really beautiful. It's got this like watercolor vibe. So I don't know. I think it's an underrated deck. I don't see a lot of people talking about it. And I believe this creator has... do they have advertisements for their other decks? I don't think so. But I do think this creator has other decks, because I've seen other decks with like these keywords. If I can think of the other decks they have, I'll put them up here. But yeah, it's just, for me, it's really nice. I really enjoy working with this one. It's very calming for me, the energy on this. So when I don't want to work too hard, but I also maybe don't feel like doing a really long in-depth reading. I just kind of want to get to the point. This one's pretty good for that. I am going to do the deep divers and sharpshooters video from Mag's channel. Maybe filming that after this. I'm not sure. but soon. This deck, I just think is really underrated. A really nice, easy reader, but it has its own unique voice for me. And I think it's there. It's just RWS. It's nothing crazy, but it is, I think it's very calming. And you know, it's for the crystal people. It's for my fellow crystal lovers out there. And it works really well, I think, if you have crystal oracle decks and things like that. It works wonderfully with that. And I just think it's beautiful. That's just me, though. Maybe I'll have to do a walkthrough of this or something so more people can learn about it, because, yeah, I don't see enough of talk about this deck. And maybe people don't like the affirmations on the bottoms, but I feel like they're easy to ignore if you don't use them. But they're there if you need them. I think if you're a new tarot person, like you're new just learning, I think this is great. And I think especially if you like to do readings for yourself, this is besides besides my nameless one, this is another deck I would use to do readings, like mostly for myself, as well as clients. Like I think it's very versatile in that way. I don't mean to say like I would only use it for myself. I'm just saying it works really good for readings on yourself as well as readings on other people. Maybe I need to edit that. If that's a mess, I'll try to edit it to the best of my ability. Okay, so yeah, so the Crystal Power Tarot, highly recommend. I really do love this deck. And that's it. That's it, I think, for my 7 Deadly Sins. But 7 Heavenly Virtues by Antonia's Bliss was a really, really fun mirror tag to 7 Deadly Sins. And thank you for this, because it made me finally get off my butt and make this video. I just go watch their video if you haven't seen it. It's really, really fun. Yeah, our first deck is Prudence, and it's your most practical deck. And that for me is the Urban Tarot by Robin Scott. Again, a lot of people I think don't like this deck because maybe the art style, I'm not sure. It kind of has like a paper craft, but also digital feel at the same time. It's very kind of like sharp, and it's mixed. Again, it's mixed with like Thoth and RWS. So if you're not super familiar with Thoth, that could be what put people off of it too. Like you kind of have to have a general knowledge of both systems. Do I have the book in here? Yeah, here he says, he's like, see, what I've done with this deck is a kind of creative alchemy. I've taken elements from what has come before, the old and the new, ancient symbols and modern architecture, and sought to combine them in ways that bring those elements greater power through juxtaposition. Art, as any artist can tell you, never grows in a vacuum. Creating new work is as much a process of learning to see, absorb, and process what others have done as it is about creating something new from the whole cloth. So that's kind of his whole take on this deck, is that it incorporates elements of both. He still calls the strength card strength, but he has it in the Thoth position of 11. So there's a lot of like mixing up, but I really, really love it. And I still think you can follow kind of what's going on just based on the artwork and the meanings of the cards in the deck and the book, which I think the book is pretty good. Although, you know, it's missing its full color pictures of the cards, which would make it easier to find what you're looking for. But otherwise, it's pretty nice. These are the backs. They are reversible. And I do love this deck for some of the representation. But, you know, it's got the very Thothy pips sometimes. You know, we have kind of, you know, a pretty traditional Thoth style pip for that. But then we'll go into like, this one kind of is a more combination of the 5 of Wands, which are here. But we're having like a modern interpretation of like 2 teams on a baseball field. I hope you can see that. I might be out of the picture. But 2 teams, you know, so they're showing its competition, its competitiveness. So it's got kind of the Thoth pips with a modern representation. This card really reminds me of almost like the Fountain Tarot, I think, when I don't know if it's their moon card, but there's this definitely, I don't think it's the same artist. You know, I don't know who makes the Fountain Tarot, but there's this art style has so much going on, because again, it feels kind of sometimes like a paper cut, sometimes, or a cut paper. Sometimes it feels like photo realism mixed with like digital stuff. It's got a lot going on, but I really do. So here's what I mean, more like a paper cut kind of less definitive style, but yeah. And this is the high priestess, but she's doing some very modern thing. She's in her water element still with her candles and her pillars. It's almost like the bath pillars on the other side. But she's obviously like connected to her higher self. Like she's in kind of thought. So yeah, I like this deck. I also like that the quartz have like a job, like a literal job you would recognize with them, to give you like a modern archetype. So if you're not if you're not really into like the class system, the medieval class system that RWS and everything still kind of uses, or the prince and the princess and stuff, because this is Sloth, so the knight is the king. So he's at the height of his career. He's the gourmet chef. Just this to me really talks about real life. I want to get some more court cards. So your princess, who is your page often, like I said, Thoth and RWS treat their courts differently. And then this has like a kindergarten teacher, someone who's like just beginning like their kind of knowledge of their trade. Although I would say you still have to have a lot of education to be a kindergarten teacher. It's not easy. I think it's more like going on the general concept here than the actuality. But, you see young children, the beginning of their lives, the beginning of this career. She's not like a high professor yet, but she's kind of starting, and she's starting with a fresh mind and that feeling like anything is possible. So I really do like a lot of the choices that this deck made. So this was a little hard to see. Even I had to like remember what it is in these things. But these are rings. This is like jewelry, like they're selling jewelry, and you can see it's diamonds all around. So it's like saying wealth in that, in kind of that highest luxurious sense. Which is funny because luxury is actually the opposite of wealth. So the Hierophant, in the church. I do think too, this artist put himself in the Fool card, and I think he put his dad in the Emperor card. So, but yeah, it's just, to me, this is a very modern deck. If you like Thoth, it has so heavy Thoth references. But then you'll see like this 9 of cups. It's cups. It's not, I'm holding it up like you're in front of me. It's not as Thoth as like this card is, right? Like he goes back and forth. Like this Hierophant is very RWS. So you definitely will go back and forth, but I'm spending so much time on this. Yeah, I think it's practical. I think it really tries to bring the tarot into the modern age, and something that any modern reader would immediately like recognize, interference, and it's like static on the TV. Like it's just I just think it's really clever. I just think it's really well done. Again, I think it's super underrated. So yeah. The next prompt here is Justice. It says a deck you use to make decisions. Now, I'll have to separate a bit of this because I actually Franken-decked. I merged my Starseed and my Work Your Light together. But we're just talking about the Work Your Light aspect. And I think I have it on the top here because I was talking about this earlier. I don't really use tarot or oracle to make legitimate decisions. I actually don't read tarot that much for myself anymore. Like I kind of did in the very beginning. But nowadays, I just pull like a card for the month just to get kind of an energy I should focus on. And that's it. But in the beginning, I have looked into yes and no questions. And I use the Work Your Light because it has literally yes and no cards. it's just, it's another one kind of like that Crystal Power Tarot where I feel like it is speaking directly to the person. It's not just giving you a concept to interpret, it is talking to you. Now, if you don't relate to kind of that star seed or that more cosmic energy, like, I get that. It's not for everybody. Move some of these over. But I really like it. And I also just love the artwork. Usually I don't go cute. Usually I go in this direction where it's more sacred feminine for me if I want something soft. At least to me, it's like soft, but also direct. You know, it's like, it's sugar coated, but it's direct. That's more what I go for than kind of inner child stuff. Although it did show me, like I said, a huge hole in my collection, or a hole in my practice that actually I needed to be filled. So I'm really grateful I ended up getting that bumbleberries, but usually I would go here. Yeah. And especially I'm even more into this now because I've been going down that Dolores Cannon rabbit hole thanks to TikTok. But yeah, and this definitely feeds into a lot of what she talks about. This definitely is in that line. So if you like work your light stuff, highly recommend Dolores Cannon books. She's got a ton of them out there. Just start anywhere. Just start somewhere. It definitely talks about more interdimensional, parallel universes and past life, future life, life frequencies, reincarnation. Yeah, just if you're into this, I highly recommend you check her out. I don't know if I believe everything, in her books, but it is like definitely food for thought, I use this when I feel like I need direction. But like I said, I've worked hard to put these decks together to kind of make something that works for me. And I've taken out, if you go in this box, you can see all the cards I've taken out of the other two in both books here, that were like repetitive cards or cards I didn't feel worked for me. So I just put them out. So it's a chunky combo deck. I've been pulling these out. These are the Starseed Oracle, which, again, this probably could have gone for another prompt further down for like the perfect pairs. But in the perfect pairs, I didn't want to put 2 decks by the same creator. I felt like that was kind of cheating. So, but yeah, I do keep them together. I did go through a whole thing. I definitely got that idea from someone else on TarotTube, and I don't know if it's Boho Tarot or Danny Mystic. I might research it, and if I do, I will also link their video because it was very helpful, and it definitely inspired me to do that with these, and it made it so much more useful. So I'm really grateful for that. Anyway, so yeah, that is my when I need to make a decision, because it literally has yes and no in here. But I tell you for myself, I tend to like to just enjoy the ride a lot. I don't like to use tarot or oracle for an answer for everyday things. For me, personally, that kind of sucks some of my joy out of life. Maybe because I tend to be anxious, and then I'll focus on that all day and not in a good way. So I don't like to do that to myself. But if it works for you, do what works for you. Don't let me tell you how to run your practice. Like, do what works for you, please. I've kind of talked about a few decks I felt like were very direct, easy for me to use. I think Crystal Power Tarot and the Urban Tarot are pretty much decks that don't pull punches. But I think the most gut punchy deck I have is Deviant Moon. I kind of wasn't going to be into this deck because I thought the artwork was just too weird for me. Like, I almost to the point where I didn't think it really sat well with the tarot symbolism, because it's just, some of it's so out there. I thought it would be just really distracting. But then I actually got this deck, and let me tell you, it has no problem getting to the point. Yeah, this is definitely a deck when I don't want anything sugar-coated and I really want to get to the heart of a matter that's not easy to talk about. I usually use this in readings where kind of some shady stuff is usually being uncovered. Again, I do a lot of like celebrity readings, fun stuff like that. Business readings where people are kind of being untrustworthy, and this can bring a lot of that to the light. For as dark as this deck is, it definitely brings some things out of hiding. And I guess if you look, like the moon, it's a deviant moon, so obviously there's so much moon energy, and maybe that's a part of it where the moon is about secrets and things that are hidden. So maybe that's why this deck works for me, about bringing things that are hidden to the light. But yeah, just really like the emotion that comes out of these cards was so much more than I ever thought it would be. Like just the emotional communication for me. Like I didn't think I was going to resonate with this artwork at all, and I totally do. I kind of feel like Coraline when she goes into the other world. You know, I go into this world to get the answers, to see things kind of how they truly are. If that makes sense. Like it's, everyone looks like they're wearing masks, but the reality is they're more who they truly are than when they're not. I don't know how to explain it, but it is. It's like, it's like whatever world Patrick Valenza has created with this is like, it's Halloween Town, but it's Halloween Town that's gonna let you find your truth. Oh, anyway, everybody knows Deviant Moon. I'm not showing anything new here. There's 1,000,001 walkthroughs of this deck. I like the borderless edition, just because I like borderless cards. But yeah, I find this artwork is so much deeper than I ever gave it credit for. And I really, really enjoy using this when I am into something that has like layers like an onion that I need to peel back. This deck does that, and it doesn't pull any punches. None at all. So I actually pre-ordered his Trompe de Luna deck with the illustrated minors. I'm so excited for that because I have pip decks, but I follow Patrick for this artwork. So the more illustrations in his deck, the more I am interested. So I'm finally going to get my hands on that one, and I'm excited. So, well, I don't know I forgot when, if there's even is a date for it, but I know he had the pre-order up. So, and I know it's like super limited to like 500 decks per version. So if you haven't pre-ordered that and it's something you're interested in, I recommend checking out as soon as possible. But yeah, this is my Fortitude deck. Speaking of the moon, we have Temperance, a deck pairing you love. And I have the Moonchild Tarot and the Moonology Manifestation cards. I feel like this Lori Mena artwork, Yasmin Boland is the person who created this deck, I think who wrote the book. And then we have, I think they were highly, highly influenced by, well, I want to say, I feel like Danielle Noel, well, this one actually is just Danielle Noel. I was thinking Rebecca Campbell, but Rebecca Campbell did the work. You're like, okay, rewind. I think this pairing obviously works well because I feel like this is riding off of the trend that was created by a lot of Danielle Noel's artwork. I feel like this style of artwork is very, very popular right now. Which isn't a bad thing. I love it. So instead of using the Work Your Light Oracle or the Starseed Oracle with this is a Moonchild Tarot. So a moon deck to me was like perfect. And then a moon deck that obviously is influenced by this artwork, even more perfect. So yeah, the Moonchild Tarot, great deck. Been around for a while now. I think my book is on the shelf, but it's all right. The guidebook is great. Highly, highly recommend. 10 out of 10. This one also really good. Moonology has an absolutely great book. I think Danielle Noel did an amazing job on this one. Starseed to me, or not Starseed, I'm sorry. The Starchild Tarot to me, even though I do like a lot of the cosmic oracle work she's done, that one, the art didn't pull me as much as the Moonchild did. And then we have the Moonology manifestation cards, which really, really good. Guidebook. Talks about working with your chakras. Tells you when's the best time to like do the manifestation. It gives you affirmations. Pretty good book. Pretty good. And I think they complement each other really well. So I'll go ahead and pull some cards for you so you can see kind of kind of how they work together. And I think that they are, the Hermit, and then reveal what needs to be seen. Like, there's a lot of really good conversations these decks have with each other. Try to mix these up a little bit. Thank you, my neighbor. But yeah, and I just think that the artwork and the color works great together. And because of the cosmicness of this one, and obviously it's the Moonchild, it's heavily inspired by the moon manifestation, obviously also heavily inspired by the moon. You know, 8 of Cups, cool your emotions. That works great together. The Magician, open up to chance. Again, I think all of this just looks beautiful together, works great together. I have a walkthrough of the Moonology manifestation cards in my on my channel, so you can check that out. 6 of Cups, go for it. It may not be, you know, maybe an idea you had something from the past that now is the time to reinvigorate that idea. Try it again. No, King of Swords. You know, speak your truth, but also remember to listen with your heart. Like, I just think that this has a lot of great things to say. You know, 7 of Swords. Like, don't let the fear from other people, you know, stop you from living your truth. So, yeah, I think these cards look great together. I think they work well together. They focus on the moon. If you're into moon energy, moon work, working with your phases of the moon. I'm supposed to be working with another tarot deck every month this year, but this is making me want to swap it out. So it may it may only last half the year before I switch this one. I don't know, but this is your fault. Antonia, this is your fault now. I'm blaming you. But yeah, highly recommend this pairing. I really love it. Anyway, I am totally babbling on. This video is going to be way too long, but oh well. Cheers. Okay, so we're halfway through this tag. Okay, I went back and forth on this one because really all of my decks are for spiritual guidance. You know, like that's part of my whole tarot practice in general. So we have Faith, a deck you use for spiritual guidance. And I finally, I think last second here, traded it out for what I had before. It's the Dreams of Gaia. I think ultimately this is the one that I feel like offers a deep, deep well of spiritual guidance. And also, I think for me, it gives me that connection with nature that I can often be missing, being that I am not an outdoors person. It has to remind me to reconnect, which I need. But yeah, Dreams of Gaia, it's nothing new. It's been around for a long time. It's kind of like a fantasy. It's got like fae and angel energies and, you know, chakras and nature. It kind of has a lot to pull from in this deck. It has some cosmic energies. I don't know. It's very deep and it's very wide ranging. And I feel like whenever I'm missing something, this deck is there to kind of give me instructions and guidance. I feel like it always has a lot to say. And the guidebook is really, really great. Probably on my shelf like everything else. Yeah. Oh, and this is by Raven Falon. I hope I say their name right. If I'm mispronouncing that, please correct me. It has got a very meaty guidebook with a lot to offer you. Like, I'm still learning this deck, even though I feel like I read with it fine at this point, but there's still so much the guidebook and the cards offer that I feel like I learn something new from this deck every time I use it. And I just really enjoy it. And the art style is absolutely stunning. I have the Messenger Oracle from the same creator, and I will probably get the Secret Oracle when that comes out too, or is it already, it might have just came out, it might have just been released, but I'm probably going to be late on getting a lot of things this year because I'm trying to not impulse buy. So, yeah, anything where you see a flip through of a new deck is probably from a Kickstarter that I supported last year that is just coming in, or Kickstarter supported even before that. Some of them take quite a while. But other than that, I'm trying not to buy decks like right away. I'm trying to make sure that they're going to be something that's going to have a place in my collection, because I've been impulse buying for the last 2 years and I need to get a handle on that. But yeah, I really, really love this deck. Next up is Hope. It says a deck for dark times or a hug deck. I find when I need something that's kind of got a little bit of a softer feeling, I like the Roots and Wings Oracle. I don't know where my little pamphlet is for it. It came in a bag with a little pamphlet and I put it somewhere in a box and I don't know where it is. So we're just going to get the deck today. But again, this is why I really like the second tag, because I feel like more of my Oracle really fits in this tag than the 7 Deadly Sins. So I like that. I liked a little bit more balance. And speaking of balance, that is also why I like this deck. It kind of is an Oracle that brings in a few tarot aspects. It has a few cards that are definitely from the tarot, but it's not trying to be a tarot. It just says, instead of just like renaming and recopying some of the same archetypes that are in the tarot that are also in this oracle, we're just going to directly reference tarot. And I kind of appreciate that. They're not trying to hide it as something as something else. But it's a soft watercolor thing. It's you know, a lot of the keywords are very neutral, but I want to say not in a scary way. So, you know, time, humility, mystery. You know, the mystery card's not big and scary. It is dark, though. I mean, it does have a couple darker cards, but it's not, like, overly balanced one way or the other. Most of it feels very neutral. But, I don't know. There's something about it, I guess, because the watercolor, the art style feels soft. It feels gentler than a lot of my other things. Spiritual guidance, potential, the moon. No, the artwork is simple, but in a way that still, I feel like, is good at kind of tipping off your intuition when you're doing a larger spread with this. Release. The keywords to me are great, but yeah, we have like the moon, like literally from the tarot. You know, so it does have some more spiritual feeling cards, you know, grounded, but it has this eye and the hand, so it's like you're still vigilant, you know, you're grounded, you're connected, but also you're watchful, you're careful. Like, I don't know, to me these cards, just that the artwork still has a lot to pull from, a lot to give you. Manifestation, obviously, because rabbits are very fruitful in their multiplication, so, you know, that message is pretty direct. You know, the Earth Mother, very Empress energy. Seasons, I don't know, there's just something gentle, abundance, you know, feels like kind of the same person here. Community. And I guess also it doesn't really show faces that much. It's kind of like it definitely calls me out when I'm letting like that negative aspect take over. But yeah, I don't know. There's just inspiration. Everything's growing in different directions. I don't know. It's something soft about this deck, and I do when I feel like I need something a little gentler. This is it. This is it. I feel like when I'm in like almost when I'm in healing mode, this is the deck I gravitate to. So I really enjoy it. It's not new. I'm sure there's a ton of walkthroughs. It's a wildly popular Oracle deck. I think it is an indie deck. The quality is amazing. I don't think it's too expensive, but I don't know how it's going for international stuff right now. I believe the creator is American. Kate Riles, I believe. If I got her name wrong, I will correct it, you know, like I usually do. But I believe it's Kate Riles, and her artwork's really, really amazing, and I really enjoy this deck. And again, it feels very soft and comforting to me when I'm in kind of like that healing mode. I've gone through the dark decks. I figured out what my issue is, and now I'm working to fix that problem. And this is kind of like that gentle guidance I want. So with that, we have one last one. It's Charity. Yeah, we're not going extra special with this one, although I really like the creator, like talking about how they were giving that deck to their sister. It was really, really sweet. I have given other decks, like decks I was rehoming to friends that wanted to try it out. I think the first, no, not the first, but the one that comes to mind that I gave away because I personally wasn't finding it useful, but I think it was a really beautiful deck was... Oh God, what is it? Was it Matt Hughes' deck? Oh, it's like that really pretty Art Deco one with all the gold foil, whatever. I'll put the name. I'll put the name. My brain is not working. Oh my gosh, what was it called? It's driving me crazy. But I gave that one away because I felt like it was a good tarot deck. I just think it was too... The artwork was almost too muted for me personally. But... yeah, and there was some issues going on. So I rehomed that one. That one I think was a really good deck. But if I'm going to give a deck to someone who has no tarot history, right? They have never read tarot before and they want to learn about it. Do I think this is the best tarot system? I don't know. I don't think I'm at a level to really say so. But is this the tarot that I believe has the most, like, easily accessible information to learn it? Like, you can find books, you can find YouTube tutorials, you can you know, just learn from the RWS because the illustrations are, even though they're of kind of Renaissance or older everyday life, they're still kind of set in a way that I think most people would recognize. The chords I think are always harder, but like the message I think will get through even if you don't have a book for RWS, especially for Western, you know, someone who you know, is from a European or American country, maybe more so, should recognize a lot of these scenes and what they really are trying to tell you. So yeah, I think if I was going to give a deck to someone to learn tarot as their first tarot deck, I would give them this. Even if they say, hey, this doesn't speak to you, this is going to be a study deck. This is going to be something where you're just going to find information on the basics, and most of the time they're going to be talking about this deck. If you're in English, I should say English-speaking country, maybe. Maybe that's the right term. This is really going to be where you're going to find the most information on how to learn tarot. It's changing. I'm hoping it's changing for the better, but, you know, I would say in the last 10 years, this probably is like the most basic learning deck. You can... I don't want to say it's not the most basic learning deck. What is the word I want? The word I want is kind of like the most... I don't know. There's just the most information out there about this deck. Every tarot book you pick up, 99% of them are going to be talking about this deck. At least where I live. So yeah. So this is the RWS. The traditional RWS is what I'm going to recommend. Now I use the Centennial personally because that's just the one I like, the borderless Centennial. Again, I don't like borders. I like kind of like the more... I like colorful, but I don't like anything that's like eye burny. That's like too intense. And I think, yeah, I think this is a great one. But I think if you just want, you know, any of them, any of them, if you pick up the vintage, if you pick up the Radiant Wise, if you pick up any of those, I think it's fine. But I think for a beginner, I would highly recommend just picking up a Rider-Waite Smith and starting there. Like, this is, to me, one of the most advantageous starting points to learn tarot, at least in this current time. You don't have to. I just think it's the easiest. And, you know, everyone has different opinions. So if you have another deck you think would be the best starting deck for someone who has never learned tarot before, please do share. I'm very interested. I am very, very interested in what you guys say. But yeah, I think the RWS. I think it would be easy and fast for most people to pick it up. I think that's why it's so wildly popular, is for most people, you don't even need the book. You're going to know, kind of generally speaking, what that means. You know, the illustrated minors, I think, make this pretty easy to grab and go. So yeah, that's what I have, I think, for all 14 sins and virtues. So I was going to make this in one video. We'll see when I edit it how long it gets. So hopefully it's still one video. It's going to be a long one though. So if you made it this far, thank you. I really appreciate you. I hope you're having an absolutely lovely day. Take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. And I'll see you really soon. Bye.